What's up, besties? I hope you're having a light-siding day. One more sewing video. I hoped to make a more complicated project, but I couldn't get the supplies I needed. Basically, the craft store opens after I go to work, and I don't have a regular setup leaving hours, so I hoped that I could one day just go get what I need because I know it's there, but I was leaving quite late for several days in a row, and I just gave up and decided to do something more simple. Especially that a few months ago I bought fabric paint, so I figured I'd just test this out. And yeah, I am doing a little pencil case in shape of a casket. I guess for those of you who go to school, this can be a go to school DIY. Just, you know, if you're younger than like a high schooler, don't use a sewing machine. All of this can be hand stitched, so yeah, I've hand stitched many pencil cases like this. Though I don't really want to call this a tutorial because I'm not an expert, I'm a beginner myself and I make mistakes and I don't want you to make the same ones. But yeah, here you can see I'm taking apart an old pencil case. It was a pencil case my sister bought at Sensei. Then she gave it to me because she got bored of it, and I used it for some times, and you can't really see it in the video, but it was like stayed in one place. And also like all of the lettering just got rubbed off because it's a really nice fabric because it's like purple turning to like yellow or even green when it comes to visuals, but it's kind of just plastic, honestly. And initially I just wanted to reuse the zipper because I couldn't buy a zipper either, and I realized that the one I have at home doesn't have like this moving part, but I ended up just taking the fabric too and using it too. And yeah, here you can see just me taking it apart, trying to not damage the shiny fabric. I didn't keep all the black fabric on the inside, I just wanted to take all the stitches apart. I think I was cutting individual stitches, and yeah, it took a lot of time, but I think it was worth it. Also, I don't encourage you to just go buy a pencil case at Sensei and use it for crafts. I think that would be dumb, but if you have one lying around, you can use it, but you can also use any fabric you have. This project can be made out of scraps because the pieces I use are quite small. So yeah, I figured that since I have this kind of fancy fabric, I can use it because I wouldn't be able to use it for anything bigger anyway. Here you can see me sketching the shape of the pencil case. I just took a random pencil case I already have to like measure out how long does it have to be for me to be able to put things in it, and using that as the length, and just mapped out how it has to be a casket. I used a paper with a grid on it because it's much easier for me and I don't have to use a ruler. I lost all my rulers pretty much the moment I finished high school. That's one stationery I never quite seem to be able to find. But yeah, this part's quite easy, just sketch out a casket, And here you can see me outlining my little stencil on my fabrics. For the front, I'm going to use a regular black fabric, like quite a stiff one. It's the same fabric I used for a bag in my last sewing video. And for the back, it's the fabric I already told you about. And I know that there are like special things you can use to drawn fabrics that are easily washable, so you can get rid of it quickly, but I don't have any of that. I use the regular white Posca marker on the black fabric and regular cheap like water-based marker like for kids on the shiny fabric, because on the back it's like just white and matte and it's easy to draw on. And around that I did my little seam allowance. I like making my seam allowances quite big because then I can just trim off, but you know, you can never really add. And I just cut out my shapes, so yeah. And here you can't really see it in the video very well because I use very light lines, but I just made another one of like this stencil so that I don't draw on the original one, and it's identical. And I just started sketching out my design. Initially I didn't know what to do, so I ended up just doing what was my default, like a moth or a butterfly. In this case it's a moth. It's a comet moth, to be more exact. One of my favorites. I love these long little thingies that it has at the end of its wings. And I think this is like the best moth that I could choose for this. And a little moon at the top to keep the composition nice and balanced. And I just drew it like in the middle to be able to plan it out, and I cut it out like it was quite symmetrical, so yeah, it was easy to cut out. And yeah, that's what I came up with. And so the painting process began. First I put some paints all over the outline that I made on the wrong side, so that I'm sure that I don't paint where I'm not supposed to. And then I struggled to outline my stencil because I tried gel pens, but they don't write on this type of fabric. And yeah, you know, it was black, so I couldn't use a pencil. So in the end, I ended up just using the same Posca pen and like not outlining it fully, just marking the most important spots. And from then on, just freehanding things. And when it comes to the moon, I just did a second stencil that was like, I had the outer part of it, so I could just directly use the paint, and it was harder than I anticipated because I can paint. Okay, here are some of my paintings. I can paint, and I can paint detailed things, but this paint just didn't want to cooperate. Like, my lines were very thick and I needed to use many layers to keep it all saturated and very bright white instead of just, you know, a muddy white, because, you know, once again it's a black background. And yeah, I used a brush that's technically an eyeliner brush, but like, imagine eyeliner applied like this, like, it would not work. Like, it looks better on video than in real life, but like after several layers I was quite satisfied. Like, I wish I could make thinner lines and add more detail, but I think that's cute too. Just not exactly my style. And also I think this paint was made to blend, because it would blend very well. Like, I could blend it very well with other colors, but I only had black, and I didn't want to use black because the only thing I could use black here would be to create gray and maybe like as an eraser, but it would be like a stronger black than the background, so yeah, that would be awkward. But yeah, I think overall it's not bad for the first time. This is the design. I also later on just put it in Clip Studio Paint and got it separately because I think it's nice at the end. Just a little moth. The paint packaging said to let it dry for 24 hours, but I just let it dry overnight and then went to work next day, and after I came back I was like, this is already like 100% dry, I'm not going to wait any longer, and I just ironed it as they told me. Generally speaking, I think it would be much easier to first sew the whole pencil case and then paint on top of that, but the paint needs to be ironed in, like that's the instruction. So yeah, I could have done that. And I would recommend that if you use fabric that can take this. But the shiny fabric that I have, you know, that's essentially plastic, it would melt. So I couldn't iron it, so I first, you know, made all of my parts and only then sewn them together. I also used wax paper just for some extra protection because I was scared. I know that there are these fabric crayons, and they're like kind of oil pastels, and they stain a lot, so when you use them you have to use some paper or something, because it basically just melts and, you know, leaves a stain everywhere, but this paint didn't do that, so yeah. Then I sewn in the zipper, and I was also scared of this part, I must say. You can see me hand stitching it down first. I don't really see people hand stitching things first that much in like other people's videos when it comes to sewing. I'd expect it more, but my grandma does it and she knows what she's doing, and she taught me this, and yeah, it works really well. It works better than pinning, because once you like hand stitch something, and you can see these are very simple stitches, you can also like turn it around, see how it looks, and it's not going to fall apart because you can pull it, you know, you can test it out, make sure that's exactly what you want, and yeah, then just stitch over that and pull out the thread at the end, and you know, it works really, really well. I'm not sure why some people I see not doing that. I do. And look, I can record the sewing process this time. It just started raining here, and there is a storm, so if you can hear that, then I'm sorry, but yeah, I guess you can't see much, but I am sewing, and you can see me going through some different levels of frustration and going back and forth, like just sometimes I just need to take up the stitch and redo it if I'm not satisfied with it. Yeah, I just sewn in the zipper with. Also, when I took apart this old pencil case, it turned out that the zipper didn't have those like little stopping parts, so that the zipper doesn't come off one end or the other, and honestly I expected them to be there, you know, since they can just get zippers of whatever length they want and sew them in. They didn't have to cut it, but it is cut. So in order to make up for that, I just took a thread in the color identical to the zipper, which is black, and just spiraled it around the both of the ends, like just sewn it around so it's sewn sharp. And now at the end I just hand stitched all the way around the edges. I figured I'm not going to add this like inner layer, like this part that in the old pencil case was black. That part I just ruined because my pencil case is very small, and that would make it even smaller on the inside, and also like I don't mind the ends being visible from the inside, like it's going to have things in there anyway. Like, I guess if I was making it bigger I would bother, but on this size I just didn't. And I just sewn in these two parts together, and I hand stitched it, and I just made sure I'm following my outlines, especially on the black side, because I wanted my design to be exactly how I placed it, so that it doesn't touch the borders, and yeah. And now it was time to just stitch everything together, and I started not from the corner that is right next to the zipper. I started from the next corner and then just came back to it, because it's much easier for me to sew towards the zipper, and at the point where it just can't go any deeper in, then figure out that myself and start from there. But it's not going to be visible, obviously, that it's two separate threads, so yeah, that was the easier way. And here you can see me just taking out all of my light colored thread, the one I hand stitched with. I always choose a thread in a color that's completely different from what I'm going to use next and from the color of the fabric, because it's easier visible and and it's easier to take it out without leaving anything behind. And as you can see, the pencil case, after turning it over, doesn't really hold shape very well, and I immediately knew why. And the reason why is that the shiny fabric is very stiff, and the ends that are inside were also straight, and they were pulling the black fabric outside. And the way I dealt with it is that I just turned it back to the wrong side. I cut out the corners, so I got rid of them, and I just grabbed a hot glue gun and glued all these sides down to get precisely the shape of a casket there, so none of it sticks out. And I think it also might have just made the whole thing stronger, because if one stitch snaps, all the other ones will just stay in place because it's also glued now, so that's cool. One interesting thing I noticed is that I don't really feel like the panic thing when I get hot glue on my fingers. I think it's because of my job and because I have to touch very hot sheets that are like freshly ironed, coming from a machine that's like heated up to over 140 degrees. And yeah, I think it's an interesting skill. It's not like it doesn't hurt whatsoever, but I don't get the ouch, I need to get my hand away from it anymore. I have something very hot on my hand, great, I don't mind anymore, I guess. To make it even more in shape, off camera, I added a white stitch along the zipper on the black fabric, so that the zipper doesn't cause the problem that the stiff black fabric causes. But yeah, that's how it turned out. I think it was like a nice quick project, and I hope you liked it, or at least something I said was useful, or I don't know. I think it's a nice back to school type project, even though I'm not going back to school now. I'm waiting 1 more month. My university starts a month after school, but yeah. Anyway, that's all for me for now. Just stay safe, stay hydrated, and peace.